Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adrian Show tonight here on live on WilliamsTV. Well, tonight with me, I will be interviewing National Party MP Polydamos, who is here in the studio with me, and we'll be talking about a range of issues within the UK and the UK political scene. So, hello.
Hey, hello everyone. How are you all doing? It's great to be here today. Uh,
It's great to have you on the show. So, obviously, Uh, first thing I sort of talk about then is you were brought to my attention as you'd written a parliamentary letter, shall we say? So that's probably the best place to start, which I thought was very relevant and resonated with a lot of the issues we see within politics at the moment. Then, so starting off, you sort of credited the Social Democrats somewhat, but then sort of criticised their a sort of a lack of opposition, shall we say? Could you sort of expand on that then?
yeah, for sure. This term, with me being in the opposition, I've had more access to certain behaviors of the opposition. I've had more information on what the opposition is supposed to do and how the opposition behaves. I can say that when I was in government, when my party was in government, when I served as Attorney General, then Lord Chancellor, we never really had good opposition from either the pirates or the social democrats or anyone who was in the opposition at the time. We never really had strong opposition. We literally just did we literally just did our job, did whatever we had to do, got bills passed, and sometimes we were worried, oh, maybe the lords might not approve, but we never really had any worry about it not going through the House of Commons because there was no real opposition at that time. But this term, the SD has really stepped up a lot. And I believe the Nationals too have really done well in terms of opposition, criticizing the government, holding the government accountable. From time to time, the Unionists also stepped up to really hold the government accountable. But yeah, those that just wasn't really done when we were in government. So we just had a lot of more leeway and a lot of more opportunity to get things done without necessarily being criticized. I believe when we were in government with the unionists, before the budget was proposed in about 2, 3 weeks. It took for the budget to be proposed, and there hardly was any criticism about it. No one really talked much about it. Nobody really caused an uproar about it. But this one, the first week when we didn't have a budget, immediately there was like criticism about it. Everyone was saying, "Oh, the the chancellor has to resign. The chancellor has to step down. That the budget isn't ready. The budget isn't sufficient, and things of that nature." So this term, we really saw good opposition in the House of Commons, and yeah, that's just what I'm applauding the SD for, and telling them to do more of that. Hold the government more accountable if they're in the opposition again.
Okay, so yeah, that's definitely interesting to hear. I think there's definitely been a lot of opposition from my view, certainly at the start of the term. However, this is a sort of topic of discussion I had last night on the show with Dean, who's obviously the Commons Speaker, and he was of the opinion that opposition from all opposition parties, sort of Social Democrats, Nationals, Unionists, etc., um, was very good at the start of the term, but has subsequently sort of fallen off a little bit lately. And certainly from a public facing point of view, I haven't really seen much in the way of public opposition to things. I think the most I've seen lately is stuff regarding the Solidarity Party in particular, with obviously the self-declared man of the people. So, what would your sort of take on that be?
I think at the start of the term, there really was a great chance of uh, the opposition passing a vote of no confidence, or even if the vote of no confidence wasn't going to pass, it was going to be majority for the opposition. And the only reason it wouldn't happen is because there wasn't two over three of the House to be able to fully pass it. But there was a really good chance of the opposition securing the majority in the House, failing budgets that the we didn't really support, or failing budgets that we did not believe was good for the nation. But I believe in my letter, I also mentioned the betrayal of the Unionists. There was a very important vote, and the Unionists just treated it with a very lax attitude. They did not whip votes for it. They did not declare any lines of whip for the votes. If you have such a vote of confidence in the House on a budget, and you're not whipping votes for it, you don't care about the nation at that point. Because this is one of the most important votes that can happen. And instead of taking a stance as a party, you tell all your party members they can vote in any way they choose, and they're free to just do as they please during this vote. That is that is not what is expected of an opposition in a responsible government. No opposition is going to treat a vote that way, especially such an important vote. And the way they just treated it, I think it just literally broke the morale of the opposition. Because at that point we felt, oh, we can't really trust the unionists anymore. They're literally just an offshoot of the Greg's party. And even now that still kind of holds true now, because a lot of members of the Greg's party are probably Rothschild,
Mm.
and Unionist is also majorly Rothschild, is kind of what brought up the Unionists. So we just saw it as the Unionists is literally just an offshoot of Greg's. So we can't really work too much with them. We can't really lean much on their supports, because they literally might just be acting in the interest of Greg's. And some intel that was gathered, some intel that was shown was, I believe it was also in recent news articles, was saying, oh, the Gregs are looking to form up with the unionists, try to get them into the party and things of that nature. So I think we just really believed we couldn't trust the unionists as much anymore in the opposition. So it literally was mostly nationals and SD working towards an opposition, and that literally just broke the morale of the opposition. Attendance started waning. People stopped showing up to some sessions, or people really just got busy with real life and things of that nature. There will be a lot of absences for work, events, and things of that nature. So I think that's really what happened to the opposition. After that vote happened and we saw how the unionists treated the vote, it kind of crashed the morale of the opposition.
That's quite interesting to then have sort of that insider insight from yourself then. But do you think things could potentially change now that obviously the Unionist Party now has a new leader, which is of course Xbox Formula. Now previously they had Marcus as their leader, who was a little bit sort of sympathetic, I think I should say here, towards the Greg's party, having had quite a few alliances there. But do you think that will change under Xbox? Do you think they'll sort of be more of an effective opposition force, working alongside yourselves and the Social Democrats and the national rest of the National Party?
There probably is a really good chance of that happening, because I believe the votes for the vote for the confidence on the budget and things of that nature, I believe Xbox supported uh, the Nationals and SD. Xbox voted also against the budget and against the unions at that time, I believe. No, sorry, against Greg's at that time. So I believe with Xbox, kind of us as the leader currently, it probably some things are likely to change. But then again, what at the end of the term, basically, so there's not much that can be done in, I think, two more sessions left. There's not much else that can be done in terms of opposition, unless the Greg's party just begin proposing the most outrageous bills. I don't think there's a lot that's going to be done in terms of opposition against the Greg's party right now.
Mm. Yeah, I think, like you said, I mean, just sort of things are coming to a close with the current term. Um, but do you think that sort of, I mean, not so much just within Parliament, but within a sort of public facing role, within public announcements from within the party, and things like that, there hasn't really been much sort of public criticism of the um, government or sort of firing between parties in any form at all for quite some time now. It was quite very prominent at the start of the term, of course, but I think for the last sort of few weeks or so, I mean, I haven't really seen much public facing opposition. You have the Twitter accounts like absolutely ripping each other to bits. What's your take on that? Do you think this is something that should sort of be stepped up, or does that sort of link into the general lack or sort of sorry decline in morale, as you were saying earlier?
I think kind of, but another important factor is for there to really be criticism of things, there has to be things that are actually being done. I don't believe the Gregs are literally doing anything right now that is worth criticizing, that is worth talking about. The most recent debacle, I believe, was the whole Ireland war, the state of emergency, and things of that nature. And I think a lot of parties, a lot of people are focused on the elections that are about to come. So I think they're kind of scared of taking a stand on certain issues to work towards more of getting votes of a larger pool, votes of sympathizers, votes of people who may be against it. Because when you take a stand a kind of way, you kind of lose the support of the other side. So I believe a lot of people are not stepping up to criticize or berate the government right now on the island issue and on controversial topics because it can really affect your votes in a couple weeks to come. But another thing is, if that kind of is how you're looking at things, then you're not really ready to hold the government accountable. I dropped this letter uh how long ago? Like a couple days ago, I think, on the 17th. So that's about 4 days ago. I
Hmm.
dropped this letter 4 days ago, and overall, there was decent response from the public. There was decent amount of people saying, "Oh yeah, this is true. Oh yeah, this is correct," and things of that nature. But there are also obviously going to be people in your own party, people in your echelon telling you, "Oh, why would you speak on this right now? Why would you do this right now? Elections are coming. You're not supposed to take a stand right now on this issue." So I think really a lot of people aren't stepping up because they're scared of votes. They're scared of losing the votes of certain people. And that literally just breaks the whole sense of governance and accountability. If you're more focused on votes, if you're more focused on uh, how much people are going to support your party, and you're choosing not to stand up to the government because of this, then you're not really ready to be in the government at that point. So yeah, I think that's kind of it.
Hang on, sorry about that. My dad was just came into the room. Yeah, no, definitely a fair point there. So you're talking about issues that you sort of think people are being a bit sort of careful around. Is that sort of the Northern Ireland conflict in particular you're referring to there? And what's your overall stance on that?
To be fair, I don't really, I'm more of a legal person, you know. I'm more concerned about what the law says and how legal actions are. When looking at this from a legal standpoint, this is not supposed to be happening. There, you're literally, there has been a treaty signed, there have been agreements signed. You're choosing to forego those treaties, you're choosing to not stand by them, you're choosing to pull out, and you're issuing illegal state of emergencies. And because of this, from a legal standpoint, this is very wrong. The defense for it is, oh, it's raising activity and it's getting people more involved or something. But I don't even think I've seen too much of activity rise because of this. Sure, there was a little bit of drama at the start of it, but now again, it has just dwindled again. So because of that little rise in activity, you've chosen to break several laws. The government is literally in court right now trying to defend this action. Uh, and I don't think it's going too well for them. The current AG, I have no clue what he's doing. He has failed to submit critical documents, and I think they filed for the proceedings to be held in secret or something. So a lot of a lot of uh, how do I put this? A lot of the action that led to the start of the whole Irish conflict was massively illegal. And the government is defending this by holding closed proceedings where members of the public aren't really able to see what's happening. And members of the public aren't really able to follow as much. But from what I've seen, from what I've known, the whole conflict was very illegal from a legal standpoint. So, I mean, members of my party might support it, and people are always going to have different views. People are always going to have different takes on several things. But for me, from a legal standpoint, it shouldn't have happened.
No, I would agree with you. I think I mean, like you said, very legally questionable, and the real sort of motives behind it were never really fully stated either. I mean, I'm no fan of Irish politicians by any means, but I mean, I think the whole thing was a little bit exaggerated, and like you said, it's been sort of kept away from the public, and the way they're dealing with it in a legal matter. I mean, I haven't even heard much about it other than they sort of were taken to court, and that's been it. So it hasn't really been much that the public's been able to hear about it. So it's good to sort of hear that you know a little bit more. But um, I mean, yeah, I personally am of the opinion that I think it's a bit of a publicity stunt apart from anything else. I think they just went in there um, and are just trying to make it look like they're a good activity bringing um, patriotic government. But what would your sort of opinion be on that? Do you think it's a publicity stunt mostly to sort of, because I remember at the time as well there was a lot of government scandals going on. So do you think it was a bit of a sort of distraction from all of that?
That probably that probably might be one of the factors. But I believe as the reason what they've majorly cited as the reason was activity. They said, oh, it will cause a rise in activity, so they chose to do it. But for me, I don't think I've seen a critical rise in activity. Like I said, maybe it went up a little at the start, but right now again it has dwindled again. So I don't think it was worth it at all.
No, I'd agree with you. And I mean, it's been going on for about a month now. These things they don't usually last longer than a week or two usually, and then just people sort of lose interest and get bored. So it's I think you can only sort of bring conflict to Northern Ireland so many times before people get bored and go and do other things. You
Yeah.
need some sort of permanent solution there, really. Do you think that
Mhm.
the government has sort of neglected trying to invest in Northern Ireland and then offer sort of other alternatives to activity, like bringing in business and so on, and actually investing their budget into it?
I mean, if you look at the budgets, there's really not a lot that is being done for Northern Ireland. And that was one of the things we criticized around the start of the time. The funds for Northern Ireland are, I think, they were put into a certain area where, or based on requests or something. But there literally wasn't much done for Northern Ireland. They didn't really invest much in it. They didn't really do much for it. And now they're coming to say, oh, there are issues. Of course, there's going to be issues. You're not properly allocating funds. You're not properly allocating resources, time, and properly developing it in a reasonable way. Your response to be able to develop it is through conflicts. Conflicts is never going to lead to development and uh boosts progress in the area. Conflicts is only going to make things worse. So it just generally doesn't make sense. The logic behind it doesn't make sense at all. And when you start to point these things out, you're literally just met with insults, you're met with deflection, you're met with just a lack of actual responsibility from the government. The current government is just unable to take responsibility for their actions and for the things they do. It makes no sense. How have about 7 people resigned this term? It's because there's a lack of responsibility and action, and it just doesn't make sense at all.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think the government, like you said, is very good at deflecting things. I mean, I was having this conversation with Dean on the show last night, and he was very sort of clear that Michael is incredibly good at being able to deflect things, and that's partly how he's been so successful throughout his political career. Because,
Mhm.
like you said, he doesn't really take much responsibility there. He just sort of deflects it onto whoever else they can, and they get away with it, and then get votes as a result. But um, yeah, what's your other sort of takes on the government whilst we're here? Well, what other problems do you think the Greg's party in particular, or just the government in general, because it's a coalition, of course? What problems do you think the government has mainly at the moment?
In terms of problems, I think for one, not taking responsibility is obviously a problem because how can you? The whole point of a cabinet government is for responsibility to be taken by the government, by the cabinet, by the party in charge. That's the whole point of a cabinet, to have somebody responsible for key areas of the nation. That's why every member, that's why every minister is in the House of Commons, so they can be held responsible for what they do. So they can be held responsible for various departments, various institutions within the nation, justice, treasury, Northern Ireland, various things that make the nation run. You have ministers in the House of Commons that are responsible for those areas. And if the government is failing to take responsibility every time they're asked questions about these things, they are deflecting and failing to take responsibility. That is a whole problem. They are not doing what they're supposed to be doing as a government at all. And people are going to fail to see this. People not going to really are not going to really think about this. And they'll just vote, oh, I know this person, oh, I know this guy, oh, he sent me a message telling me to vote me, and things of that nature. But what have they done in office? They've literally done nothing. Their plans, their whole agenda, their whole manifesto, what have they achieved throughout? They've literally done nothing of note to actually be applauded and say, oh, yeah, they're doing a good job in office. It has just been a very terrible time so far. And this really needs to change in the coming election. I don't know how. I don't know how the people are going to respond. I don't know how people are going to vote. But if again Greg's get into government, it's literally just going to be a fucking long term. Oh my bad for swearing.
Oh, no worries. That's okay. I think we're still within Ofcom guidelines, so that's fine. It's a broadcast, so. But anyway, yeah, no, I agree with that assessment there. I mean, I'm no fan of the Greg's government. You know, a lot of people aren't. However, I think what they're very good at and what they will do, I think what we're going to see in the election campaign, um, is I think they're going to capitalize on the things they have done, because the things they have done are quite um, well publicized. They're very good. They're very good with their tapping into the voter base. I think. I mean, you've got things like the Westbridge Business Expo, which was very high profile, brought a lot of activity, and you also, again, I know the Northern Ireland conflicts, we talked about it earlier. I mean, I disagree with it, you disagree with it, a lot of people do. But from a surface value of bringing activity, I think they're going to probably run their campaign off of we bring activity and these people don't. What are you going to do to sort of combat that, as it will?
Uh, it all depends on what you consider being good for the nation. Is is the fact that this activity is happening considered to be good for the nation, or is this activity coming as a demerit to the nation? That is what you actually have to think about. If there are better ways of bringing about activity, there are better ways of ensuring things are going well. That should be what is done. That should be what is implemented. You shouldn't just say, "Oh, because they're bringing in activity, uh, then sure, let's vote them back in." And also about activity, when you're considering this, there are all the things that are happening at the same time. As around the time Greg's got in and they started implementing some things, that was also when counterfeiting just started. That was also when animations for, oh, you're holding a phone and you're driving started. So the fact that development is happening also around these times is also contributing to more people getting in game, is also contributing to the rise in activity. So everything can be attributed to the Gregs and saying, oh, due to this activity rose up. There has been also developments that have also caused a rise in activity, like the counterfeiting and all that. So when you look at this, it just depends. Is this activity good activity? Is this something that is being maintained? Or is it just a brief rise and then a drop where people start to lose interest again?
Absolutely, I think that's a pretty good assessment there. I mean, like you said with Northern Ireland, I think it is beginning to drop a bit. I think there's been an SSU that's actually ongoing right now, so I wonder what that's like. Let's take a look at the playability numbers on that. Let's have a look at how many people are in game. We could just get these uh, numbers up wherever they are. Should be in the SSU channel. Bear with. But I'd be interested to see what those are currently. I mean, okay, so apparently there are 64 people in game apparently, although that was quite a well publicized startup. But yeah, I do think you can't sort of play the activity game indefinitely anyway. Um, but I mean, yeah, I mean they've got a very experienced group there with the Rothschilds who've been within the sort of political power for a long time in some form or another. What's your sort of take on the sort of Rothschilds as a whole, in particular, sort of Michael, who's the sort of front-facing thing as a man, as obviously prime minister as well? What's your sort of opinions on them?
I think one of the things that was in their manifesto was eliminating career politicians or something like that.
Hmm.
And if you're thinking about it that way, aren't the Rothschilds just career politicians? Aren't they just people who have formed this group of people who are constantly going for this office, constantly doing this, constantly doing that? And there's no real new faces. It's just the same cycle of people over and over again, raising issues, raising drama, doing this, doing that. Isn't that what the whole party is? Isn't that what the whole family basically is? So how then can you say you're addressing an issue that you're literally the main proponent of? Like it just doesn't make sense to me. A lot of the logic behind some of the actions, some of the things he says or does. And when he says it at first, it seems, oh, this guy is saying something smart. But when you actually look into it, he says some of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And it just doesn't make any sense to me how people continue supporting him, supporting the party, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've been sort of going on for a long time. I think it's absolutely absurd if they sort of claim that that they're here to change things when in fact they've been. I mean, Michael's been prime minister, God knows how many times, but and they are basically just a recycled unionist party as well. I'm not quite sure why they brought a new one along. They already had a party to begin with, but um, I do, yeah. On the subject of sort of the Rothschilds and government scandals and things, obviously you coming from a sort of legal background, I think you'll be able to provide some sort of insight on this. But obviously, I think it was sort of near the start of the term. You had the whole incident with Ben Hathaway, I believe, and the sort of prosecution of someone, I can't remember who it was, that was sort of dropped, and Michael seems shadily involved, and it was all a bit of a big scandal at the time. I can't remember the exact details because it was some time ago now. But what's your sort of take on all of that, especially as someone with a lot of legal background, as I said earlier?
I think the whole case was basically uh who what's his name? Uh the former leader of SD. I've forgotten what name is now. But the former leader of the SD was being investigated for electoral fraud, I believe. And he was also being investigated for some other crimes and was taken to court. Ben started off as a representative for uh, the leader of SD at that time. And then he got into, hold on, give me a second. What is his name? I think it's start with a V or something.
Yeah, that does ring a bell. I can't remember who it was either.
Yeah, I've forgotten, but Ben started as the representative for him when the whole case started. And then Ben got into office. Ben at first decided, oh, he's going to stay on the case. And everyone, a lot of people who actually knew law said, no, you can't do this. Like, there's a clear conflict of interest with you being the Attorney General of the Federation and choosing to defend a case that is being prosecuted by uh, the departments you run. So that is clearly a conflict of interest, and that is clearly something that shouldn't be happening. He argued, he argued, he argued. Then uh, he was told to step down by the judge in the case. He stepped down, it got transferred over. Yeah, V hierarchy. V hierarchy is
That's
the
right.
name.
Yeah, that's the name.
But yeah, he stepped down eventually after being told to by the judge. And then he then dropped the case using no noli prosequi. I think that's how it is pronounced. But yeah, he chose to use NP. And first of all, before you're able to use NP, there is a whole process for it. You have to consult the board. You have to consult. You have to consult the board. There has to be a vote on it. He did none of this. He literally just issued the NP straight and dropped the case. That is very, very illegal. It's not something that should be done by an AG. It's not something that should be done by a government. And he did it. So obviously, a lot of people rose up against it at the time. And then he chose to resign. I believe there was even supposed to be an inquiry into the act to see if all the members of the government were involved. But due to his resignation, I think the SD just dropped the inquiry and said, oh, never mind. So I'm not sure how far it went. I'm not sure who actually agreed to uh, allow it happen, who chose to tell Ben this can be done and things of that nature. So I don't know if the PM was involved. But if the inquiry had continued, maybe we would have known more. But it didn't continue because the SD dropped it, I believe.
Right. Definitely good to hear your insight on that. I thought you'd sort of disagree with the whole situation. I mean, it was an absolute um, disgrace that that was allowed to even happen and have him in that
Hmm.
conflict of interest to begin with. I forgot that was what the problem was there. So thank you for reminding me on that. But absolutely disgraceful then. So obviously we've talked about the Greg's party in particular quite a lot. Um, we haven't touched much on the Solidarity Party, and there's a few points we'll talk about. But we'll start off with, um, I mean, you know, I think they have been accused of sort of selling out of selling out the party, as it were, to just sort of cozy up to Greg's. Certainly by a former MP I had on the channel before. What's your sort of take on that? Do you think Solidarity's sold itself out to continue its coalition relations with the Gregs?
To be honest, I have zero clue what the Solidarity has contributed towards those governments. The Solidarity has done. Am I able to swear, or
Yeah, you can. You can.
I'll just avoid it? The Solidarity has done nothing really throughout their entire time in government. They have all I've seen from them is a bunch of issues. Oh, this person resigned, and as this person resigned, he leaked messages or leaked things. Uh, then another week goes by, another person resigns, the person leaks more things, and it just kept on happening and happening and happening. This also just destroys the entire image of the party, and it makes you lose credibility. And the fact you're in government is also affecting the Greg's party, because now it's not going to just be seen as the Solidarity. Now it's going to be seen as the government. So they're just painting a whole an even worse picture on Greg's than that they already have. And as a whole, it just doesn't really make sense. I have no clue what they have actually contributed towards this government. I believe they were responsible for uh, some of the parliamentary workshops or something, where people were able to speak to members of the parliaments and things. But that was the only thing I believe they actually did this whole time. The rest of the time, I don't think I've seen anything actual from them. And yeah, it just they've done literally nothing at all in government.
I mean, I think the sort of biggest achievement, or the only thing I'm sort of aware of, the business fair was their idea. It came from their sort of manifesto and was one of the agreements of the coalition, I believe, or at least that's what I was told by Dean yesterday. But although in practice, it's obviously been the Gregs that have executed that, as Nathan, the Chancellor, is obviously a Greg's deputy leader. So I think they'll probably end up arguing over who actually was behind that at the election. I think that would be something quite funny to see going on. But definitely, I would agree with you. I haven't really seen much from them, at least aside from that. So, what do you think about the sort of leadership contest at the moment? Obviously, we've got Lava, and then obviously the self-proclaimed man of the people, scripted Zach, and then there's also somebody else who I completely forgot who they were.
Uh, like I said, I don't really follow Solidarity too much because I don't, I haven't really seen them do anything, so they're not really worth the attention. But I believe Lava is currently the Tech of Stateful Justice. Uh, I don't think I've seen too much bad from him. He managed to, I believe he was responsible for the current budget. He was responsible for the justice sector of it. And he was also responsible for awarding multiple awards. There's the Barrister of the Month scheme, then there's the Prosecutor of the Month scheme. Lava awarded Barrister of the Month and Prosecutor of the Month to Bushberry. This is something that shouldn't be done. The main reason that there's a clear difference between barrister and prosecutor is to have prosecutor go towards more of people who are engaging in prosecution, and barrister to go towards more of people who are engaging in defense. That's kind of why it was done. And he took these two awards and awarded it to someone he appointed, I believe. So it's just a lot of behavior that people do. It's just behavior of certain people in government this time has just been very questionable, I think. It has just been a very questionable term in terms of what the government does and their behavior so far. And that's basically what I know about him. And he's saying that fact is false, but that's literally what happened. But uh, Yeah.
No, definitely interesting to hear your take on that. So, what do you think about scripted Zach then, who is the self-proclaimed man of the people in the Judicial Spectator and is currently trying to run as leader? Do you think he'd be a I don't know if you had to have lava or scripted Zach, which one would it be?
Uh, I don't believe I know too much about Scripted Zach. I mean, I've seen his name a couple of times. Don't really know who he is though. I haven't really paid much attention to him. But Lava as a whole, I believe Lava was former deputy speaker, I think, or is the current deputy speaker, something like that. But yeah, Lava as a whole is generally, I don't have any issues with Lava. The whole budget was just kind of questionable. The whole awarding barrister and prosecutor to the same person. That was all I really saw. I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? But other than that, I don't. I think Lava is actually a decent person.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I mean, I don't really know loads about him, but he's a regular viewer of the show, so I'll give him that. Big ups to Lava for that. But he seems fairly decent anyway. Um, oh, I've just speaking of Lava, I think he is watching the show as he's just typing in political discussion. Apparently, the LC, whatever that stands for, doesn't appoint the DPS. I'm assuming he's referring to Deputy Speaker, I don't know. I don't know what DPS is.
He's saying the Lord Chancellor doesn't appoint the director of.
Yeah.
I don't know why he chose. I don't know why he wrote DPS. It's supposed to be DPP, Director of Public Prosecution. But there was literally no Attorney General until ammunition technician got appointed because this guy resigned. Uh, Ben resigned. Under Ben, there was no DPS. Actually, there was Maxwell. I think Maxwell was highly inactive. Uh, so Ben resigned not too long into the term. So if Laverdin appoints Bush, then maybe the person before him, I forgot what his name was. Very terrible LC. But uh, if Laverdin appoints him, then maybe the person before him appointed him, or maybe Ammunition appointed him. But Lava is the justice secretary. No matter who appoints who, Lava is the head of justice in the nation. He's going to be held responsible for whatever happens in the sector. If an attorney general is not able to answer questions, if an attorney general is not able to do certain things, as Slava is the head of justice, he's going to be the person who is held responsible as the leader of the sector. He's also a member of the board. So even if he's not directly appointing whoever is the director of public prosecution, he is on the board of the Crown Prosecution Service. So he still has access to this information, still has access to uh he still has access to these things. So even if he's not directly appointing the person, he would still be involved in some shape or form as a member of the board and as the head of justice.
Okay, yeah. Did say that as well. The other point he's also raised to myself within there is apparently Bush was the only one who took part in cases that month, so it was a hard choice. Are his words there? Um, so I don't know if you've got anything to add on to that, or before we move on to what we're going to talk about next, which I've completely forgotten about. So I'll pass over to you whilst I remember what I was going to mention.
Well, that isn't fully false. I don't think that's fully false. The whole thing is there haven't really been a lot of cases so far due to just a lack of prosecution by the CPS. Uh, uh, I was handling a case. I was handling a case before. Well, I was okay. No, that is just even irrelevant right now. But yeah, there haven't just even been a lot of cases as a whole so far this term because of I believe there's about maybe 5 or 4 cases maybe even more, just sitting idle in the CPS and not being addressed. Very high profile cases as well. Like when I still had some access to stuff, there were massive cases involving like gang violence. There was a special unit made by the Metropolitan Police to address gang violence, address crimes and things of that nature. But I don't believe these things so far have still been addressed. I don't think they've been persecuted at all. So there still is a massive backlog in the department right now.
Hmm. Um, yeah, no, I mean, I haven't seen loads. I mean, I don't even know if I'm in the any of or Justice Service. That's probably why I haven't seen anything. I thought I was, but apparently not. But I mean, I haven't seen loads certainly from reported on anyway. Legally, it seems to be sort of be a little bit quiet, but um, just bringing everyone the latest news because it has just come out as you were talking. The Prime Minister has stated apparently the situation at the border is very much declining, and sort of said apparently that he's being told that the British forces currently stationed there are being bombed by the Irish. So um, I suppose things will be heating up a little bit there, but how long that'll last for, I don't know. But anyway, just bringing people a little bit of news. Quite unusual here for the um, Adrian Show to bring news. It's more of a commentary thing, but oh well. Anyway, moving on to my next point. Obviously, we've talked about a lot of parties. We've talked about the Unionists. We've talked about the Solidarity Party. We've talked a lot about the Greg's Party. And a tiny little bit about the Social Democrats as well. Now, there's one party that doesn't formally exist yet, and you might be aware of which party I'm talking about here, but is very much on the process of doing that. And from my latest update I've been given,
Hold on, I
they've
think
just
my
reached
phone.
the threshold for that. Oh, sorry, you okay?
Okay, yeah, it's good now. I have no clue what just happened.
Right, okay. But anyway, going back to where I was, yeah, the latest party, or soon to be latest party, currently doesn't formally exist. However, they've just reached or about to reach the threshold required to register, and is making a bit of noise at the moment, is the Four Star Party. So, what are your opinions on the soon to be, in theory, Four Star Party?
Uh, I don't think I've really formed an opinion yet until I actually see a manifesto, until I actually see actual members of the party, until I actually see what this party is supposed to be. I don't think I'm able to have a proper opinion that I'm able to say, oh, this is a good thing or this is a bad thing. So until then, I don't think I have a strong opinion yet. I'll just wait and observe until either they become a party and actually run in the election, or they just fade away, I think.
Mm. I mean, I think in particular, your own party, the National Party, will probably face the um, biggest sort of I don't know competition there because it is quite similar in terms of its sort of potential voter base. So I'll be interested to see how things go with that, and whether or not they work together or sort of attack each other. But that's definitely seems to be making a bit of noise. But again, like you said, it can't really be judged massively so far, as it's still under the ground a little bit. It's not really here with us yet, and the policies haven't quite been fully solidified. But from what I do know about their policies, is they are going to try and bring in some anti-corruption measures, and are being very loud about um, the state of the government at the moment. Do you think that the idea of bringing in sort of anti-corruption methods and extra legal, I can't remember the exact details of it, but they are planning on expanding their influence over the legal side of things for in the name of anti-corruption. What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, I don't think I fully understood the question. I'm sorry if you don't mind repeating.
Yeah, so basically at the moment, I mean, their policies aren't quite fully formulated, but one of the things they are looking at doing, let me just get up the specific details here. Um, it's all they're looking at bringing in some anti-corruption, um, governmental, or sorry, legal things. Where are we? Let me have a look. Yeah, anti-corruption committee they're planning on bringing in, so it would sort of oversee um, politicians and so on, and corruption, and it would be I think it's like an extra supplement to the judiciary. Do you think that's a sort of a good idea, or do you think it sort of interferes too much with the legal system at the moment?
I mean, it might be a good idea with the amount of behavior we've seen this term. I think it might be a good idea to have some form of department that actually oversees uh behavior. Naturally, the Supreme Court should be doing this. The Supreme Court should be able to declare certain actions, certain laws, certain behavior by the government's illegal through judicial review. But I believe the key requirements is someone has to submit the petition to the judiciary. I don't think the judiciary acts independent in that way, that they just all create a case against someone or open an investigation into someone. Someone has to submit some kind of report or submit some kind of case against the person for there to actually be judicial review. So the Supreme Court definitely is a good institution for holding people accountable, investigating corruption and things of that nature. But people just had to be more proactive and actually submit these things to the Supreme Court for that to actually take action. They are not able to just act by themselves because that would have already give them a kind of bias. If if I choose to begin to look into you for corruption, it means I already suspect you might be corrupt. So the court is not able to do that because it already insinuates that they believe the person is corrupt, and a court can't do that. So
Hmm. Um, no, brilliant, lovely. Thanks for that. I mean, yeah, so we've talked about all the other parties now. I suppose the next thing to talk about would be the National Party itself. So sort of how are things going in the party, and do you think how do you think the election is going to go for your party?
I mean, hopefully it goes it goes good. That's what we can hope for. I have no idea how people are going to vote. I have no idea how uh people are going to behave in the election. But all we have to do is just hope that people can see what is currently happening, what is currently going on, and can see that if this is allowed to continue going on into a second term, it's just going to be terrible. Right now, people are reporting all the bombings at the Irish border currently.
Hmm.
Is this what we want to be hearing about constantly? Do we want to continue hearing this uh for a whole other term? We just want to be hearing about people getting bombed, about soldiers losing their lives at borders. Is this what we want to be hearing? Is this what we're sacrificing and saying, oh, yes, this is good currently for the people? Does it make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been going on for a while. I think you can only play the we're at war again in games so many times. But I do think it has been sort of a key strategy with the Rothschilds over the years. I mean, when I sort of first started hearing about them under David Rothschild's term as prime minister back when he was Schiffer, almost 3 years ago now, or just over 3 years ago actually. During the Northern Ireland War that was happening then, I mean, they became a very, very popular government as a result, and I think they've always had a strong appeal to people because they've been able to recycle the activity thing. But it's just a question of how many times can they recycle the we're an active government thing before people realise, oh, hang on a minute, you're only doing this to get more votes. I mean, it's sad, but
Mm.
I mean, yeah, that's certainly that. So going back to your party, then, what do you think the main appeal of the National Party to voters at the moment would be? The main, I don't know, what appeals to you about your party? Is it just because it's not the government, or are there other things as well? Why should people vote for the Nationals at the next election?
Why should people vote for the Nationals? The Nationals, I believe, when we were in government with the Unionists, what I would actually refer to is what we have done when we were in government. When we were in government with the Unionists, I believe, although there wasn't really uh, a lot of strong opposition, like I mentioned, to point out issues with the government, I don't believe there were necessarily problems when we were in government. We literally did most of what we had in our manifesto. We delivered on promises we made, and we continually did this for terms. So we clearly have this track record of achieving what we've said we're going to do. We have this record of promising things and actually getting them done. And if we don't get them done right away, then probably in the next term or something, we're going to get them done. It was due to a lack of time or something, we weren't able to get them done. We have shown constant activity in Parliament, maintained this activity through regular sessions, through MCQs and things of that nature. We have uh, we have just constantly shown that we're ready to govern. We've constantly shown that we actually care about the nation and care about making uh, things go decently in the nation. So that kind of is the main appeal right now. And then it's just a lot about, I can't say too much about the manifesto that's going to come out to, to avoid leaking things prior to when the manifesto is released. But in the upcoming manifesto, the amount of plans, the amount of ideas that that we intend to actually get done to actually implement in the nation, policies that we plan to get done. I believe when the people actually see these things, it would show that the nationals actually care, and we're not just trying to get into office for the sake of getting into office. Because if you see the Gregs and Solidarity, a lot of their ministers literally just got into office for the sake of it. What are their ministers doing? If I ask you, oh, name how many ministers can you name? You probably don't know who these ministers are. You don't know what the hell they're doing unless you actually have a keen relation to that department, because they have not done anything that's actually worthy of noting or saying, oh, this person is responsible for this person is responsible for this. They've done nothing at all. But in the coming manifesto, in the coming uh plans for the election, you see that the nationals actually care. The nationals actually have things we want to get done, actually have people who are ready to get the job done.
Mm. No, lovely. Thank you for that. It's good to hear that there are plans going ahead. So just to confirm, so you are, I'm assuming the National Party is very much gearing up for the election at the moment and coming up with policies and putting manifestos together at the moment.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, I suppose it all remains to be seen as to how the election will go with all of the parties bringing forwards their manifestos. But things are very much on the move, and the election is within a sort of week and a half, 2 weeks, somewhere like that. I can't remember exactly, but it's soon. It's soon upon us. So expect a
Mm-hmm.
lot of activity and probably a lot of broadcasts here. Well, with that, I think that's all the points I wanted to discuss. Really, we've gone into detail about a lot of things, and heard your quite in-depth views on a lot of the scandals that have been going on lately, which has been great to hear. I think we agree on quite a few things there. So with that, I think I'm going to wrap things up because we've been going on for just about an hour now, which is sort of the average running time on here. So thank you very much, Polydamos, for coming on here tonight on the Adrian Show, and thank you
Thanks
to
for
all of
having me.
our viewers, of course, for listening and watching along. It's always great to have people watching and engaging, all the rest of it. That's why we do it, folks, is for your enjoyment. So before I do end off, though, just to quickly announce what's coming up on the Adrian Show, or just on Williams TV in general. So we're sort of now halfway through the sort of planned broadcasts at the moment. On Sunday, we've got two programs. We have an interview at 5 o'clock with the Foreign Secretary from the Greg's Party, not Chocolate Players. So it'll be a form of interrogation, I think, in some manners, and also just to hear what he's up to and all the rest of it. One of the few cabinet ministers I do actually know of and who they actually are. So that'll be on the Adrian Show at 5 o'clock on Sunday the 23rd. Also on Sunday the 23rd at 8 o'clock, we'll be bringing live coverage of King Alexander's Jubilee Parade at 8 o'clock on Williams Events. Also expect to see potentially some sort of coverage of the rehearsals for that as well, which are happening tonight. So I'll sort of record that tonight and hopefully get that out sort of tomorrow evening, maybe, if I'm able to get down for that. So short little video just to sort of show the preparation for that, as a little trailer, I suppose, for Sunday. So do stay tuned for all of that, and then obviously from there we'll plan what's going to happen. So thank you all for watching. Big thank you to Polydamos for coming onto the show, and with that I wish you all a lovely evening.